Hey, Kingdom people. This is Blake Bush at One Hope, Colorado, in Fort Collins, Colorado. I'm coming to you from a secret bunker somewhere in Fort Collins to give you just a live explanation of our Stone Token Initiative. What we're trying to do is bring this old stone church into the kingdom of God and let it remain there until Jesus comes again. So, super excited about what God is doing. 5 things I'd like to accomplish. And that is, first of all, just give you a brief history of this initiative. And I'm not going to go into great depths because you can actually find a video of it on oldstonechurchfc.com and get the kind of the longer version with all of the amazing things that God has done. And even in that, that's kind of a condensed version. So that's the first thing, just a quick history. Second thing, just an overview of the Colorado House of Prayer, which is the main ministry of One Hope right now. And then after just kind of an overview, I want to just share a few testimonies of what's happening at the Colorado House. And then fourth thing, I want to just give you a quick, vision casting for this ministry. And then the fifth thing is I want to explain the tokenization process and what we're trying to accomplish. And if I do well, I want to kind of put the bulk of our time into the explaining of the purchasing initiative, because that's probably the most important thing for this video, is an appeal to accredited investors and just investors in general to be a part of this story, to help and bless the Colorado House of Prayer and the other ministries that are involved in that facility. So that's my intention, those five things in just 25 minutes or so. Well, first of all, the history. In 2004, planted a church called Third Day, ran it for 14 years, had a great team. My wife and I loved it. We loved the people, but I always knew that there would be something beyond that, and that was fuzzy to kind of gaze at, but I knew it was a house of prayer idea of churches and ministries working together in a city. So 2004, it was kind of an idea, but it was really about 2009 that the Old Stone Church kind of caught my eye, and I thought, man, that would be a great place for a house of prayer. And so I began to pray for it and pray for the house of prayer, pray for the Old Stone Church. And about several years later, 2015, I'm praying for it in the sanctuary of our church. And I had a pretty significant encounter with the Lord, significant enough that it caught my attention. And I began to think, wow, maybe this isn't just my idea. Maybe this is really God's idea. Well, the same thing happened the next day, at the same time of day, lasted for about an hour, and impactful enough that I got up and I went downtown and knocked on the door of the Old Stone Church. And my friend is pastoring a church down there. And I just said, hey, I got an unusual request. Can I just start circling your building and claiming it for a house of prayer for this city and for this region? And Kevin laughed and he said, sure, go for it, but don't pray our demise. Like, pray that we would actually grow and have to outgrow this facility. So I said, I'm on it. And I went down there, probably not every week, but sometimes every week and definitely every month for 6 years, just circling that property, claiming it for a house of prayer. Sometimes I'd bring friends over with me and I'd say, see that? It's going to be a house of prayer. And then we'd have a good laugh together and continue to pray. And so 6 years later, he comes to me and says, we outgrew it. And I said, I'm taking partial credit for that. And he said, duly noted. But we're getting out in about a year. Do you want to get in? And I was like, wow, we just stepped out of senior pastoring because the Lord said it was time. But yet our leadership group was kind of small and just seemed like early, even though I've been praying for it for like 13 years. And I took it to the leadership team. We came and we went in and looked around at the church, and then we went and prayed. And we thought, you know what? I think this is the Lord. So let's just do this. So a whole lot happened in that time. I'm not going to go into the details, but I can say this: God supernaturally opened the doors for us to rent the facility. A friend of mine purchased it. He and his bank purchased it. And so we've been renting for over 2 years. And that's just been miraculous. And but it was February of this year, 2024, that I heard the Lord say, now tokenize the building. And I thought, what is that? What is tokenize? I don't know what that is. So I had to go look it up. I had to call some friends, and they would say, both of them said this. They said, oh, that would be an idea, but I don't know if that happens in the United States yet. And so they researched it, I researched it, found out it's a thing. It's a thing to tokenize a building. So we are now in this process of moving from renting from a friend to renting from an ownership group through process called tokenization, and super excited about that. But let me just give you a quick overview of what's happening in the house. Right now, we're open Monday through Friday, noon to 4 p.m. And we just have live worship and prayer every hour. We're also open 4 to 6 on Thursdays for healing prayer. Friday nights, 6:30 to about 8 o'clock. Again, with just people from all over the region that come in and help lead worship. Kind of the band rotates around. And then we do it once a month on a Saturday night. And we do just other special events, other prayer times. I just left the house of prayer and they were having prayer for Israel. And, a good dozen people in there just praying for Israel. And that's really cool. So bunch of different initiatives, but the open times for sure, Monday through Friday, noon to 4 p.m. and Friday nights. And so you'll see people just coming in, reading, being on their face, encountering the Lord, worshiping, praying, having conversations. It's a true community space, and it's a lot of fun, and a lot of good things that are happening in this place. And so it seems like in the last 4 to 5 months, we pretty much have had someone come in the building and needing ministry, needing Jesus. And I'd say about one a week now of people coming to Jesus, like first time conversions or coming back after being away a long time. And which is really cool to see the effects of prayer and worship just changing the environment and making people hungry. And this much I really believe, that from our worship and prayer, we have, I think, the presence of the Holy Spirit on people as they walk by. Maybe it's even angels. And because what's kind of been a common testimony these last 4 months is after we get done ministering, I'll say, well, what brought you in, by the way? And invariably they would say, I just felt impressed too, or something was highlighted on the building. One person even just said, I was driving down College, having the worst, day of my life, an older gentleman. And he goes, I don't know if you're going to believe this or not, but the truck actually turned itself down your road. And I thought, whoa, where is this going? And it wasn't a self-driving vehicle. It was an older truck. And he goes, I went for a block and then I saw the open sign and I thought, man, maybe this is what I need. So he came in and gave his life to Jesus. Or really, it was kind of a recommitment to Jesus. And I said, you know what? I believe you. I believe you that crazy things like those signs and wonders are happening. The other one that was really fun is the guy came in and first time, very nervous. He engaged, but it was kind of standoffish, and then he left. Well, the next day, I'm sitting on the steps, and he's walking by, and I said, "Hey, come on over here and sit down with me." And so he came and sat down, and I noticed he was, tatted all over. And I said, "Well, what's this number on the top of your hand?" And he said, "Well, that's my nephew's racing number." And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. And I said, I want to show you something. And so I come with me. So we stood up and we walked around the corner and I pointed up to our address and it says 328 because that's our address, 328 Remington. And he gasped and he just about lost all control. And he's just like, that's my nephew's racing number is 328. And so so there was a lady walking by and he goes, hey, I got to tell you this. It's 328 and 328. And she said, yeah, I'm into numerology too. And I laughed. We sat down and I said, this isn't numerology. I said, you know what this is? It's a sign from God that you're not here by accident. And so it really opened him up. I got to share the full gospel message. And I think he came to Christ. But what I noticed is that every day for the next week or so, week and a half, 2 weeks, he was in there every day and he was worshiping and he had his Bible open and he'd be reading it. And you could just tell that there was just something new about him. So I really believe he did kind of come to Christ. And it's been so fun to see people come in and really they'd be led in by the Spirit of the living God or by angelic ministries. So you'll see a whole lot of everything. Um, People worshiping on the ground. It seems like there's a whole lot of tissues being gone through and people on the ground, people in praise, large groups, small groups, different topics, different things happening. And it's just so fun and it's so great. So, yeah, I feel like we're only running about 10% of the vision because of our limited hours and the limited staffing that we have. But it's happening and it's growing. And eventually we want to be 24/6, 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. Sundays, we want people to be in their churches. So we give that as a day of rest for us. The ministry to God will be that 24/6, but the ministry to this city will be 24/6. I'm thinking if we're seeing one person a week and we're only open about 20 hours, 25 hours, what's it going to be like when we're open all hours? Because people don't have crisis just from noon to 4. It's in the middle of the night. It's early in the morning. It's weekends. It's whatever it is. So I just think what an amazing thing to have praise and worship being lifted to God to glorify his name. That alone, he's worthy of it. That alone is worth the churches and ministries working together to glorify his name, to praise his name. But this much he promises, that he dwells within the praises of his people. And so that's the purpose of a house of prayer, is to host the presence of God, to minister to God. And then the overflow of that is ministry to the city and people coming into right relationship with God. So what an amazing thing that's, someone in crisis or in need or just at that right point in life can say, I know a place in the city, or the Holy Spirit just redirects their driving down to the house of prayer to encounter the presence of God, ministry and music and prayer, the gospel itself. And so they're just going to be so fun. Another thing that we're really looking to do in 2025 is to start a coffee shop in the basement of the church. That's where we would serve it, but basically the whole place can be turned into, nooks and cranny where you can go pray, you can go talk, and then obviously in the main sanctuary worship going on. So um, I'm so excited about the people that God is bringing to help with the coffee shop. And if we can just start raising a little bit of money to rehab some of the basement and inside, then we're going to be off to the races. And that's going to help us get to 24/6. There's a whole lot of other ministries that are happening. I love Sundays at 2 is our street church. And boy, people get ministered to there. Ascent projects on Sunday mornings. Man, there's just about 6 other ministries that utilize that as home base. So I just really believe that if we can capture the Old Stone Church and own it by the people of God, that ministry will just increase, and it will be a blessing to the house of prayer. So what I want to do is I want to take the remainder of the time, and I just want to talk about what I call the Stone Token Initiative. This idea from the Lord to tokenize the building, and how that kind of drill down to a little bit more into the mechanisms of it. We need accredited investors to be a part of the first initial offering. I'll explain that in a second, but we need accredited investors. And then beyond that, we also just need the people of the kingdom to participate in the second round of investment. So, okay, here's how this goes. Tokenize the building. Had no clue what it was. Thought it had something to do with crypto. Called a few friends who were into crypto. They said, that's brilliant. Researched it. Took about 2 months of research through March and into April. Found a company that is beginning to specialize in tokenizing real estate. Now, it's some big words that you'll find, like blockchain and crypto and tokens and all that kind of stuff. But it's a pretty simple concept, and that is this. You take a building like the Old Stone Church and you put it into an LLC, in this case, a corporation, and then you just offer shares of that corporation. And those shares are called tokens because it's a different process. It's a more up to date, more secure, more fast, more inexpensive, more visible, just more on every way of a process that you would in the olden days. You'd take a piece of paper and you print it on it a share, print off a whole bunch of shares, put them into a safe, sell them off one at a time. And then it's gotten updated to where if you want to buy shares of Microsoft, you get on Robinhood and you say, I want 10 shares of Microsoft, and it's instantaneous, and you do that. Well, that's been extended into the real estate world through blockchain technology. So you don't have to get all into the technicals of it to be able to understand or to participate. Simply think, hey, I'm being invited to own a portion of this building, a fraction of this building through purchasing shares or tokens. So what happens is that we've established an LLC called the Old Stone Church and Old Stone Church FC. And the first round, because it's considered a security by the SEC, has to be limited primarily to accredited investors. We can have a few non-accredited investors, but really it's for those who are a little more savvy, those have some means. Those are just the rules, because even though it's a new technical process, it's somewhat just the old mainline way of doing real estate. So, an appeal right now to accredited investors, please become a part of this story. Help us get our building. Help us get something that is going to transform Fort Collins and even Colorado. And what I'm excited about is the tokenization process is totally reproducible in other communities who want their own building, build a house of prayer, build a ministry house, build a place for nonprofits. So I think that's the wisdom of God and why he didn't just give us a check at the very beginning, because then we would have never discovered this process. So, in this world of blockchain, those people tell me that we're actually the first church to be tokenized in the world, the first one to go into this process. Now that kind of sounds a little scary, but it's really not. It's a pretty bomb-proof technology and also process, because we've taken a lot of time to develop, do the research, find the people, and do something pretty solid. That it's kind of like moving from handwriting a letter to doing email. Now, y'all do email right now, right? My guess is, when you first kind of get into that realm, it's a little scary. You're like, what are we doing here? But it's kind of that same jump in technology, that it's a pretty brilliant process. It's so exciting. So we found a company called RE Tokens, and they specialized in this. We're partnering together. They've been so amazing to work with. We're working with Foster Grant, real estate attorneys out of New York, and then the blockchain that we use is out of Zurich, Switzerland, and just an amazing thing that God's done. What the funny thing is that people in the blockchain world think I'm brilliant. They're like, "Wow, how did you ever think about this kind of application to it?" And the insider secret is I'm not that brilliant. I'm just tenacious. And so it's the Lord who said, do this and tokenize it. So full credit to him, and the people that are involved in this super fun activity. So here's how it works. We've established the LLC. The platform on which we trade, it's not Robinhood, it's RE tokens. And what will happen is that the accredited investors will come along, participate by going to the website. And on the website, you can see Old Stone Church right next to Marvel, right next to Freedom Fund, right next to the Pearl. You click on that, you get the information of this, all of the legal documents, all the financials, and everything that you would need to know. And then you just follow the process that's put forward. Hopefully communicate with me first, but this is the platform that the accredited investors will purchase. We're saying a minimum for each accredited investor of $50,000. And but if we had one person that came along and said, hey, I just want to fund the whole thing, I'll say hallelujah, come on in. So it's not like we need 30 accredited investors, but if it took 30, that's fine. If it took one, that's great. These accredited investors will purchase the tokens, and when we come to the $2.5 million, that'll be put into escrow with a guaranteed return. If for some reason we don't raise the 2.5 million, you will get your money back with interest. But we'll come to that $2.5 million mark, and then we'll go to closing, and then the LLC will own the building, and then the LLC is owned by the token holders. And there's more detail that we can go through in a private conversation to explain a little bit more in depth. But the idea is that those accredited investors will basically hold all the tokens or all the shares. And then a year later, according to SEC regulations, it can be put on the secondary market. And this is where it gets so exciting to me, is that the people of the secondary market don't have to be savvy investors, accredited investors. They just have to have a minimum amount of money, probably about $1,000, maybe 1,500, and they can participate by buying the tokens from the accredited investors. So ownership will be transferred to them through the same RE tokens platform. And then you'll have two or three tokens that are worth, a fraction of what the real estate is. So you keep an equity position. We're not asking for donations. We're not asking you to surrender your money. And there's time and place for that. I hope that we would all, give and tithe. But in this particular case, you're basically purchasing shares, tokens, keeping an equity position until you need to sell it again. Then you come back to RE token site and you can sell off those tokens. And if you buy 10 of them, but you want to sell off one of them to recoup some money, every year we'll go through an evaluation of the property and the value of the property. Now it may go up, it may not go down, it might stay the same, but that's what our board that we formed is going to be responsible for, finding the valuation of the building. And so let's say in 10 years the building goes up 30%. Then you know what? Your tokens went up 30% and you get a return. And then you'll just have to deal with tax ramifications of capital gains. But it's just the coolest way for the people of God to participate together to own the building. I am so excited that the people of God will own the building and own the ministry. And then, because this is kind of a forerunner type of concept, both as the house of prayer, a community-wide churches and ministries working together to steward day and night worship and prayer, that's reproducible for communities. They'll gaze upon that. They'll see what we're doing. There's a few other communities doing that, and we look at them and see what they're doing. But then they'll also look upon this process and what's taken us a year to put together. I would imagine now, with kind of the understanding that we have, boy, this could happen just in a few months' time, and then there's just a whole be fruitful and multiply aspect to this thing that is just sends me into the atmosphere as I think about the possibilities of seeing communities transformed by houses of prayer and by acquiring especially old buildings that we don't want to lose to the enemy or to be a residence or a restaurant. But like, let's keep these properties in the community of God and use them as launch pads of ministry into the cities, whether they're food banks or groups for kids or whatever it is, but especially houses of prayer, that this thing could multiply all across the state. And then we begin to see the transformation of cities and regions and even states through a process that I believe is God's blueprint for the future of churches working together. I'm totally a local church guy, local mission outreach guy, but I think so much of our undiscovered country is, let's work together in some things. Let's get prayer and worship going at higher levels through the day, through the night, in all spheres of society by actually working together. So as an accredited investor, just know that what you're doing is becoming a part of a story that is just the coolest thing ever. It really is so neat. And the coolest ministry that I've ever been a part of. I mean, I've never had a person a week walk into my church building just saying, I need Jesus. And so, so many beautiful things happening. I want you to be a part of that story and then know that as this is a success, it's going to get multiplied into, it could go anywhere. Really, it could go anywhere, this type of tokenization process. So there's more to be said, but maybe that's best reserved for, when we connect individually. So you can go to oldstonechurchfc.com. You can go to chop.rocks. You can go to retokens.com and see more information about this. So super excited about what the Lord is doing. If you're not an accredited investors, we need you to start saving your pennies for maybe a year from February. I'm hoping, man, by the grace of God, could we close in February and then a year later begin to sell to the common people that we are that could work together to steward this old stone church. So, and please reach out if you have questions, you want to have conversations, you just want to know more, but help spread the word. We've got to find those accredited investors to really break through on this process. This is a breakthrough moment for us. If we can find the people who are called to be accredited investors, it's feel good investing. It's not like we're promising any big return. This isn't your retirement plan. This isn't a get rich. Not at all. This is invest in something that's investing in the kingdom, that you hold your equity position. You might actualize a little bit of a return, but that ultimately isn't why we're doing this. We're doing this for Jesus. We're doing it for the ministries. We're doing it for the house of prayer. And so thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to talking to you. Take care.